Elon Musk is a phenomenon of our time. We are so privileged to be living in the time of Elon Musk because the world's never seen anything like him. What he did is all of his companies, he built around that vision that I want to make sure that we become a multi-planetary species because I want consciousness to survive. I mean, you can't get a more lofty goal for our species than that. And that's his vision.
Explain shortly what is vibe coding for those out there who doesn't know.
The first thing I'll say about vibe coding is most of what you read online is wrong. Vibe coding is basically the idea that you talk to the AI and then the AI goes and builds. That's vibe coding.
I heard some people say that AI can't build you the app.
It's my 8th attempt at building this app. The 7 previous attempts were all failed because I was battling the AI. It's not an easy journey. People have this idea sometimes, well, they see these super successful entrepreneurs and like, oh man, I'm going to do that. It's hard.
Welcome to this episode of Behind the Hustle. Today we have with us Hermann Woithe, a South African gentleman who is, I believe, a 30 years corporate man who ventured into entrepreneurship over the last 5 years or so.
Right.
So if I recap that correctly, if you can tell a little bit more about yourself, Hermann.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
I've been in corporates my whole life, more than 20 years. Telecommunications, that's where I came from. And just before COVID, I got the opportunity to go out on my own and said to my wife, I can do it now because the kids' university is paid, and let me go do something, right? And obviously, the next month COVID broke out.
The perfect start to your own entrepreneurship, right?
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, that was okay because my objective initially was to build a business that I can do for the rest of my life and, make money online. That whole idea of, I can be location independent and make money online. And so I used the first year or two to really just build up my skills base, and initially focused on online marketing, SEO and building websites and that sort of thing. And I really wanted to get the practical, functional skills myself because when you come from corporates, you have people doing things for you, right? Yeah. And you realize that, when you go out on your own, you are all those people and you have to do all of those things yourself, which is what I wanted to do. And started doing that and, built a number of websites, started doing, digital marketing campaigns for people, and been doing that ever since. And then beginning of last year when AI started becoming a thing, I started moving more into the AI space. And I'm now full-time into developing AI applications.
Because interesting, you actually do the development yourself.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Which must be such a massive shift from working in corporate, like you said, you have a specific job and people take care of everything else.
Right.
It sounds like you started very smart with the marketing, but still to get into coding and development.
Yeah, but I don't code.
You don't code.
That's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and because when this whole thing about vibe coding came out, and beginning, I remember the beginning of this year, that was really the thing, vibe coding. And I was completely taken with that because just the concept of it was just amazing to me that you can speak in English and you can code in English, basically.
So and explain shortly what is vibe coding for those out there who doesn't know. Okay. Because if you're in this space, we know, but most people will have no clue.
There's the first thing I'll say about vibe coding is most of what you read online is wrong. Okay. Because the idea I had when I started down this path was that, and it's obviously because you're ignorant about what an AI is capable of, and AIs have just improved so much over the last year.
Yeah.
But let's go back to February this year when I started. I thought that you're going to go and you're going to tell the AI, build me this app, and the AI will go and understand exactly the nuance and exactly the relationship and all of the other things that are required to make an app functional. Okay, and obviously it doesn't know that. Okay. And vibe coding is basically the idea that you talk to the AI, and then the AI goes and builds, writes the code, and sets up the database and sets up everything else, and then makes it a functional app. That's vibe coding.
Okay.
Yeah. But then, I've learned the hard way that
but I'm guessing
it doesn't work like that.
There's not enough information out there, so you're going to have to learn it by yourself, right?
Yeah. Because when you go onto X, formerly Twitter, that's where I spend most of my time on social media. You find very clever people. There's a ton of very clever people that have great insights that they share on there, and you can follow the debates and great conversations. And so you read these things and you think, oh my word, this is amazing. I'm gonna build an app because I have the ideas. I understand from a business perspective where a gap is, okay, but I don't want to go pay a developer and go through that very protracted and expensive process of building an app if I can do it myself, okay? So I said, well, this is another skill I want to learn, and I'm going to do this. I've got my clients, in the background kind of ticking over. And so I said, okay, 2025 is the year that I'm really going to get into this. And that's what I've been doing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the vibe coding is, because I heard some people say that AI can't build you the app, but if you start talking to them, breaking it down into smaller segments, then it's better. It's able to build more of what you actually need.
It's actually a lot more complex than just the simple idea you talk to the AI and it builds an app, okay? The app that I'm currently building called Flowmaster, it's my 8th attempt at building this app. And I mean, you got to think, well, this guy must be, so stubborn because why don't you just go do something else, right? But the 7 previous attempts were all failed because I was battling the AI. And I didn't understand enough of what the methodology should be and how you should work, or what my role is in this relationship with the AI, And it took me a year to figure that out, almost a year. And the 8th iteration of this app, I started building on the 22nd of October.
Okay.
And it's functionally done. And it's a super complex, it's 6 weeks.
That's amazing.
Okay, 6 weeks.
Trust me, if I went to any dev company and said, I want this, they would quote me, 3 sprints, each sprint is 6 weeks.
I know. It'll take you a year, 2 years to build what I built, what the AI has built. But what I've learned of how you're supposed to work with this AI is as follows. You have to have a specific methodology for every task that you do.
Okay.
And you put that methodology up front. Okay. That's the one thing. The other thing is you have to document everything. And for people that are real coders, they probably look at me and like, yeah, well, that's how we work, That's how you're supposed to work. I didn't know this, so I learned the hard way. But since I've implemented that, it's been fantastic. And what it enables is it enables layers of complexity. You build more complexity on top of the base that you've established.
Okay.
So the methodology is basically, before you do anything, go and verify everything that's already there. Okay. So it must go and look at the database. It must go and see, what patterns we use, what are the schemas we use in the database, what are the elements this new, functionality is going to touch, understand it, because that's one misconception is that I had, is that the AI just knows because it's built this stuff. It built this yesterday, so it should know what it built, right? But it doesn't. It loses that context. It forgets about that thing.
It kind of has to go back then and review everything to be able to come back to the same point, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because before I did it this way, I would build something, it'd be beautiful, and then I'd come back the next day and say, okay, let's build this now. And then it'd build it, and then it'd come back and say, oh, but what's that over there? I don't know what that is. And oh, now I need to refactor, and it's just chaos.
Yeah.
So now, before it builds anything, and the platform I use is really great because you create, it's a task-based system. Mm-hmm. So you go in there and you now debate with the AI, okay, we're going to build this thing. And in creating that task, I do half the work already. I say, okay, I'm going to build this thing. Go and look what's there already. And it comes back, okay, we got this and that. I say, okay, I wanted to do this and that and the next. All right, cool. Set the task. Then when we say execute, it goes and then looks again through all the documentation that's there already, through the code base, through everything. And then it comes back. It doesn't just go and build. It comes back and says, oh, this is what I found. What we've planned aligns exactly with what we have, but I found this thing that's not correct.
Okay.
What do you want to do with it? Okay, let's do that. Make a note of it in the task. Okay, are we aligned now? Okay, build. Then it goes and builds that functionality, okay, and comes back and says, okay, I've built it. I've checked it again. It's correct. Mm-hmm. Do you want to test it? Yes, I want to test. Then if it's backend, I'm not going to read Python code. So, I trust it works because I can see the logs. Yeah. Are there errors? Are there no errors if we run this thing? No errors? Okay. Let me see the front end. If I can do something in the front end to test it, I test it. And then, okay, seems to be working. Go and document everything that you built. Go and update the documents that we have. For this app, I think 150 documents that I have of various aspects. And then once it's documented, we close that task. Go to the next task. It's elaborate, very methodical, very disciplined process, but it works.
But you don't have to learn to actually code, but you have to understand the process and work the process with it.
If you think about it in the context of building a house, okay, the AI is the architect, it's the main contractor, it's a subcontractor. It does all of those roles. I am the project manager. That's my role. And in software development terms, it's the product manager role really that I'm taking on as the the vibe coder. And I really feel that the methodology that I've developed is a breakthrough in this space in vibe coding, because everybody you speak to. I'm in some startup groups here in Dubai, and one of the people in one of the groups is a very experienced coder for many years, and we've been having this conversation over the last year, and he's like, yeah, it's good for prototypes and small simple apps, but you're never going to build a proper app with vibe coding. And he was right for most of the year, but
until you cracked it.
Yeah, I think I've cracked it.
Yeah.
Because the app I've built is multi-tenant, it's got authentication, it's got an integrated database, blah, blah, blah. It's super complex, and it's not broken,
How did you learn? I understand you did this process, but still everything you're mentioning. So a lot of the companies I work with have development teams. And so I am not a tech guy,
right?
But I used to say I speak nerd. So when they talk to me, I can kind of understand the lingo. But how do you come from corporate, absolutely no development, nothing, and suddenly speak like this and have this knowledge? Yeah. Because this usually takes much longer than the few years you've been doing startups.
Right. Look, I think once you start thinking, once you have, I've always been a very analytical person. That's it's just in my nature, and I'm super curious. So I don't look at something and think, oh, that is too complex, or I can't do that. I just jump in and and go and try figure it out, and just spending the time, brute force, spending the time trying to understand things, it kind of reveals itself, and then if I don't understand something, I go and ask the AI, or I go to ask Google or whatever. And then, I make notes and I learn and okay, this, that. Okay, so how does this fit together? You got the front end and you got all of these different libraries and elements, and okay, in the back end, how do they relate? And you've got a database layer, so conceptually, I understand where everything fits, probably 80-90%. But, I can't code. But I can look at code and kind of have an idea, okay, well, this section deals with that, okay, yeah. And then, so, and I think, to back to your question, so when I started out on this journey 5 years ago, I started building websites. So now you're starting to learn a little bit about systems, right? So you learn about DNS and you learn about, structures, and WordPress is the platform I chose, and learn of everything around that. And then you kind of then see that it's not scary. Initially, when you look from the outside, it's like, oh, this is all, if I touch it, it's going to break. But
it looks like Greek or Latin or something.
And so this was just a continuation of that, when I started out, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. And I've learned all of this. This coding stuff in a year, basically, less than a year. But, to kind of, to understand how this all fits together. And, so it's been an amazing journey. And the AIs, I'm completely taken with, with AI and what it makes possible for us. So every day, I was thinking the other day, probably 80% of my day is spent talking to an AI.
It's like your second wife now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's an incredible companion to have. And now with having given my AI that I'm building with, all of this context, all of these files that it can reference, it's become so powerful, because anything we want to talk about, I say, okay, but we said something like this, go and find it. And then it goes and runs through, I don't know how many thousands of pages of content. Yeah. And then it comes back and says, well, no, we got a problem here because this one says this and that. Okay, well, this is the new thing, can go and delete that. I don't even go and look at those files myself.
Yeah,
I can, but why?
You did the actual effort of giving it enough context, right? Because I think most everyday users, I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah,
we keep chatting with it, and I'm just kind of referencing my previous chats.
Yes.
But I think those who takes the effort of building a content library that is something that suits your curiosity, your brain, and your interests, it will really help the AI. There's a podcast called My First Million.
Yeah,
brilliant podcast. And one of the gentlemen, he keeps talking about, he's giving away learning for free, how he uploaded everything about himself and what he cares about, the books he cares about. He uploaded his net worth, his financials, and so much information to the AI and trained it on it. So now when he needs to be fast in a day, he will literally ask it, how would I respond to this?
Yes.
And now he gets much more relevant and faster and better information because he gave it enough context.
Right.
So now it knows how to answer and what to deal with.
Yeah,
that is so interesting.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I mean, to that point, I saw a report that came out the other day. It's an MIT report, the State of AI in 2025, I think it's called. And it's more about the business application of AI. And the interesting place we find ourselves now at this moment in time is that AI at the individual level, what you're referring to, is brilliant, and people use it all the time for everything, right? But AI in business has an extremely high failure rate.
Yeah.
Because business hasn't figured out yet what its relationship with AI is and how to really integrate AI into its day-to-day operations.
Yeah, I was reading something about something similar just earlier today, and one of them said why his theory was that why it fails in a lot of companies is, and I think it plays into what you talked about, context. The company might not have all their current systems worked out; they have a lot of flaws there. It doesn't help to just slap AI on top of that. You need to organize your systems, be organized, and then give that context. Now the AI can actually make you faster and better, right?
Okay, but that problem that you've mentioned there of systems not talking to each other, not being in place, it's a universal problem across most businesses.
That is true.
So how would businesses now all of a sudden get that figured out? I don't think that will happen even for AI.
Do you think this is because businesses are busy, lazy? It's just standard operating procedure?
It's too hard for most businesses because I did a course in systems development and systems thinking at the University of Cape Town a number of years ago. And then I built a value stack after that to kind of, how things relate to each other. And I came to the conclusion that people or businesses skip process mapping as a discipline because it's too hard. They go from policies and procedures and they jump straight to systems because systems bring order. Okay, but a system was built for, in a certain way for a certain purpose and so on. So you kind of then forced to follow that system, but you have no underlying processes that you as a business are the best optimized for your business. You are just basically following what the system is saying. And then because you don't have your own truth, because that's your truth, because you don't have it, you're a slave of the system. Then another system comes in. Again, you don't have your own truth. Well, that system says we must do X, Y, and Z. And then these systems don't talk to each other because you don't have your own truth. And now you're sitting with a mess. And there's someone sitting with an Excel spreadsheet on the side keeping tabs.
That's me.
Of the real story, right?
Yeah.
Because that's, when I used to work in corporate, that's where as soon as I see an Excel spreadsheet, I know. The systems don't work because that's the person knows I need to keep track of things really, and that's where I keep track of things.
Yeah.
All right. So coming back to the AI, I think what makes it incredibly powerful, and this is what I'm building now with Flowmaster, it's an AI platform that you can develop custom agents for whatever applications you need. Okay, so it's got a basic, kind of underlying core functionality with an orchestrator and a sales agent and a support agent that's kind of built into the base. Okay, but then if you have, let's say, HubSpot as a platform, and you want to bring AI intelligence into your HubSpot platform, we can build that for you, and then integrate that and kind of get the benefit of AI into that platform. There are many different use cases. You can for marketing and sales. There's lead generation and it's a big field.
But what is unique about what you're doing comparing to, because people building AI agents I hear every day, right?
Right.
But we had this conversation before, and you have a quite unique touch on it.
Right. I try to build it from the perspective of a business owner, because I used to run businesses myself. So, that's kind of, where I came from in terms of how I started developing it. And a business owner or manager wants to have control. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens with individual AI relationships now, it's just you and the AI. There's no one else involved. So it's easy to have that relationship with the AI. As soon as a business gets involved, there's company information, there's access that needs to be controlled and things like that. Okay. So I built it from that perspective. And what happens is if a business comes on board and says, okay, let's get going with this thing, the first thing they do is we have a database in there, okay, a vector database. So they can then upload, like you have in your Windows environment, your file structure in Windows. So similar to that, you're going to say, okay, I want the AI to have access to the following information. You then upload your PDFs into this vector database. You can link your website. So all of the pages on your website that you want the AI to be able to understand, you put those in there. And then this vector database, or this data gets vectorized so that the AI can easily find what it's looking for.
Okay.
So that's the one aspect. Okay. So the data gets processed and it's available. Then, so the overarching idea of the app was to get people to interact with the data and with the AI across WhatsApp. Okay, because I mean I spoke to one of the airlines here, and and one of the managers told me, well, we've got this amazing safety information, but it's all on SharePoint. And nobody goes to SharePoint. Okay, so if I could have my staff access the safety information, or they get prompted with some of that information on a regular basis, or if they're on a flight on a particular airplane and they forgot the protocol to do this specific thing, they can just go on WhatsApp and ask the question, and then it can be answered. So you kind of circumvent all of the complexity that businesses have to deal with currently, or employees have to deal with, on the one hand, and on the other hand, for the public, asking a question about a service at the company, or asking, a support question, or whatever it might be, if all of that information is contained in one place, then your user experience, your customer experience should be a lot easier and a lot better if they can do it across WhatsApp. Because let's face it, that's where people live. That's where people are. I mean, that's the main interaction place where I've done the last number of deals I've done here in Dubai. They never saw email. Those deals never went to any email inbox. Everything, the proposal, the contract, everything happened across WhatsApp. So the idea with this was, okay, let's build something that is WhatsApp native, that makes it super easy for people to interact with this company data. So you've got that data there in the knowledge base, and then what this application does, it as it interacts with an individual, okay, it stores information about that interaction in the database. So it gets more knowledgeable about every individual that it's talking to. So over time, you're able to build up a profile of every individual that's been talking to your AI. Okay, that's the second thing. The third thing is,
sounds a little bit scary though.
Sure. I mean, that's obviously a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
And I know about privacy laws. I know about GDPR. You're from Europe, and it's very strict. So it is built that there's a button in there, one click, and it can delete a person's whole history, all of their things, if they want to.
What is very interesting though, so decades ago, when internet started coming around and they started storing information, like a lot of other people, I was very I want to be private. I don't want my information out there. I don't want it.
Stay off the internet. Then, right?
Now my brain completely shifted. I want it just to be. They know everything about me anyway.
Exactly.
I just want it to be as practical as possible.
There you go.
A good use case was finally my water delivery company has introduced, instead of just sending a bottles, 2 days every week before I get a WhatsApp. You have this delivery scheduled. Do you want to keep it, reschedule it? What do you want to do? The weird thing with it is I click yes, I want to keep it, or reschedule, or whatever I click. Next question every week is, which language do you prefer? I'm like, I answered this last week and the week before. Yeah. I didn't change the customer profile, the number.
Yes.
And that is very annoying.
That's 100%. That's super annoying. Yeah. And that's where, a well-built AI agent takes care of that, because it builds up the context. So if you've said it once, it will be there on your record, and we'll know, okay, this is the language they prefer. And, I'll speak to them in that language. It doesn't have to be English. You can speak in your native language. The third aspect of is again, to keep the control is when the AI doesn't know the answer. So one of the problems we have with AI in the current state is it sometimes pretends that it knows something that it doesn't know, right? And especially if you go deep into a domain specific, company domain or functional domain, it will kind of reference, it will kind of give you a general answer, but it's not maybe very specific and relevant to that specific company or that specific use case or the specific product or so on. And what I'm trying to build with Flowmaster is that it becomes a trustworthy AI. So my underlying principle of building this app is that I want to build a trustworthy AI. Okay. So when you interact with it, it gives you a confidence score. Okay. So under every message that it sends you, you'll see a confidence score, 95%, 70%, whatever it might be. And then the way the sub-agents or the tools of the orchestrator then are built is that as soon as the confidence level drops below a certain level, it escalates the query to a human, all right? And then that's called human in the loop. I don't know, maybe you've heard that term already.
I've heard you pitch this before.
Yeah.
I was almost waiting for it because I heard you pitch this entire thing before in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Now you covered more of the real story behind it.
Right.
But when I heard that, I was seriously impressed and I really like it.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing worse than when you instinctively know the AI is lying to me.
Yeah.
There's something I didn't understand, didn't know, it will spit out the answer.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just had that use case. So my wife took a master's, and what she would do when they finish a task, like for example in finance, she would run it through the AI afterwards to check, did I get it right?
Yes.
Just so I didn't miss anything. And the AI said, no, it's completely wrong, and here's the answer. I've been doing business for 30 years. So I looked at the question, I looked at the answer, and something in my head was like, this doesn't sound correct. This math is not mathing for me. So I did the exercise in my way. Took me a little while. Then I was like, there's no way this is correct.
Yeah.
And I told her, I think your answer is correct and AI is wrong. She's like, no, but it's telling me. And so I'm guessing I need to change it. I'm like, hold on. We did the exercise and then I did it again. Got the same answer. I went back to her. I said, listen, aren't you wrong? Didn't you did you take this into account? Yeah, you're right. I didn't. Let me change it. And it came out with another wrong answer. So I'm like, well, you're still wrong.
That's the thing.
And three times.
Yeah.
Until I forced it to be right.
Right.
And then it turned out my wife was right all along.
There you go.
So you can't just blindly trust it.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem, especially for businesses, because there's reputation and revenue on the line, right? So you cannot just, and I think that's probably why business hasn't really addressed this in a big way, because that trust aspect is absolutely critical. If you don't have that, then why would you put your reputation in the hands of an AI that you cannot trust, right? And that's what I'm trying to solve for.
I think that's so brilliant, your solution, because normally what happens when you get finally transferred to an agent, someone interviews from human side, it's because you got stuck. You got stuck in an endless loop, like the chatbot is just turning you, and like, I can't solve it. Yeah. Chat with agent, and it keeps trying for 10 minutes to not do it, right? And 20 minutes later, you have an agent.
Right.
By doing this confidence score, and your WhatsApp AI agent comes back and says, listen, here, I'm not sure if you want, I'll just connect you. First of all, I ran a lot of companies, so you're easing the load on customer service a lot.
Correct.
By bringing only real use cases to them. And secondly, the customer is not frustrated when he comes there.
Right.
He's actually happy. This was amazing.
Right.
And it's a much clearer use case for the customer service to help you with.
Exactly.
Right. So I think it's such a smart angle.
And then on top of that, so for that escalation that happens then, when the human has answered that, you take that answer and you push it back into your vector. So that becomes part of the knowledge base. So your knowledge base becomes more clever over time.
Great.
You build more context about every individual over time. And then as you grow this, with all of this knowledge of these individuals, you can now start building custom campaigns. You can go and then go into the app and say, okay, I want all the people that have asked about this or are interested in that. Let's send them this piece of information. So the end game, I hope, will be that people find this super useful and highly contextual to their specific use case. Okay, I mean, I've got a client that's a medical malpractice insurance broker. Okay, very specifically, but in that space, you've got specialists that their insurance premium is super high, and you've got nurses who their insurance premium is very little. Okay, it's the same product, but two extremely different and far removed customer segments. Okay, so in that case, you can have news that is relevant for the nurse, and you have other news that's relevant for the orthopedic surgeon, right? Now, when you have this highly contextual information available, and you then say, okay, once a week, I'm going to send a personalization to one message to every one of these people. Can you imagine how valuable that would be? It's not a marketing blast. It's not a campaign. Everybody sees the same message. Or no, for Dr. So-and-so, who's a gynecologist, he's going to get something related to his specialty, maybe a court case that happened in his jurisdiction about his specialty, and a new ruling that came out by the control body, and this is relevant for you. So, and that's possible with this kind of mass personalization that the AI can do.
If I can ask you something, because you touched on it maybe inadvertently, but how do you, as a one-man operation now, source your clients? I'm thinking for other entrepreneurs out there who hears this. Sounds amazing. You cracked kind of how to do the vibe coding, how to get it systemized. You have a lot of brilliant ideas that you're really able to build. But there's another side to the business. You learned marketing before, but landing this kind of client didn't come through marketing, I assume.
Right. No, look, I mean, this client is one of my marketing clients.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the app is still, it's kind of soft launched at the moment, but I have not gone to market in a big way with this app yet.
No, which is the best way to go about it.
And if you're asking me how I'm going to take this app to market, this is how I'm going to do it. I have, just through my personal connections, my network, I have enough people that are waiting for me, like, Hermann, when can we get this app now, please? Can we try it? And what I'm going to do is give them, better users, give them 3 months access and say, okay, go and try it, go and upload your information. Let's kind of mature this thing to a point where you feel that this is really valuable for you. Okay. And then once we reach that point, I will then, gather their feedback and then use that as the social proof to then go and build, regular marketing campaigns, advertising and SEO and Google Ads and all of the normal things.
You already have a business network from being in the corporate space. I mean, it's now for 3 decades combined, right? So you have that. Right. What would be your advice to a young entrepreneur, 19-year-old who not doing the same journey, vibe coding, he understands the problem he wants to solve. What would be advice to him to go out and get clients, how to go to market? Because he doesn't have your network connections. Because when you have what you have, it's such a great building block. You can lay the foundation of the house.
Yeah.
What would you give an advice to a young founder like that?
You know what, the main thing about any product or any entrepreneurial journey is that your product's got to be useful, right? Yeah. And I think where most people struggle is they overlook whether their product's actually useful and there's actually a market for it. Because I've been chatting with people about this, the concept of product market fit. It's overlooked. Because it's so easy and the barriers of entry are so low these days, it's so easy to say, well, I have, this amazing idea. Let me go and build the product, and the world's going to absolutely love my genius,
They will
and
love.
I've done that myself, And then once you've built it, you realize, actually nobody cares. And that's probably the lesson that most 19-year-old founders will learn, is that nobody cares. And the merits of the product in the end will determine whether you find product market fit, and whether people enjoy using your product. Now, you asked, how do you get your first clients if you don't have a product, if you don't have a network? There's very well established patterns of building a landing page, building a video sales letter. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
I know very well what you're talking about, right? But not everybody knows.
Right.
That's why I'm curious.
Yeah. And you build a proper landing page, and then choose one channel that you're most comfortable with, whether it's Google Ads or TikTok or Twitter or Facebook or whatever platform you feel most comfortable with, and then go and make content for it, or build content, but also run an ad campaign. One of the platforms I've had most success with is Google Ads.
Yeah.
I've had big failures as well, but it's one that is, if you understand it and you know how to put together a campaign, it can really quickly give you feedback on whether your idea is useful or not. Whether people want to know more, or whether they want to engage with you. So I would say the first thing is probably just to make sure that your product is actually useful. Now, the question then is, how do I know my product is useful? You can't trust an AI with that process, because it will tell you you're absolutely brilliant and the best product ever. So it's, I was chatting to someone recently who spent a lot of money on building a super complex AI application. And the first question to him was, well, who is this for? And he says, no, for businesses. Okay, what kind of business? No, it's B2B. He didn't have a clue about who he's building this thing for. He just had this amazing idea, and he had money behind him. I've got money, and I'm going to build this thing. But at the first kind of questioning of who's this for, what problem are you solving, he couldn't answer that. So it's like building a solution without a problem.
I think you touched on a few important things, like barrier to entry is so low today, so it's very fast to build an idea and get into the market. But I think it's an important skill to learn how to make product market fit, how to test it, is people interested?
Yeah.
Because the faster you can test that, the faster you can scrap something and build something people care about, right?
Yes.
Which is a great thing. 30 years ago, we didn't have that.
Right.
You would build something in the basement for 3 years and come out and be like, oops, no one cared anymore.
Right. But I mean, so then that brings us to the concept of an MVP, minimum viable product, right? And it's kind of to me personally, it's a moving target. What is a minimum viable product? Because you got to make it good enough that people are not frustrated but by what's lacking. And to make it good enough, you've got to kind of build the whole thing, without additional features, sure. But the core functionality of the thing needs to be there, right? And then, you've got to then, I think the best way to start, and the best way I've started with this app, and it's not a journey that started yesterday. It's a journey that's been in the making for many, many years. You've got to understand the domain for which you're building, for which you're solving this problem. I think that's probably the starting point. To sit in a room and come up with ideas, and you come up with an idea that you think, oh, this is amazing, but you don't know anything about that domain, is probably unnecessary.
Yeah.
Right. So go and start in a domain that you know. If it's video games, go and do something in video games. If it's whatever it is, Go and solve a problem in a domain you understand.
Yeah. Or at least understand the pain point that you're experiencing. Maybe you're not a domain expert, but you know as a user,
100%.
this is my pain.
Exactly.
When you can nail that down,
exactly
you can start building.
And most of the most successful apps started because of that.
Yeah.
People solving their own pain point for a specific domain.
It's what I teach when I talk to young founders who hasn't figured out how to pitch yet.
No.
I'm like, if you can nail down the why, the pain point, what are you doing it?
Yeah.
And typically it should come from your own story.
Yeah.
Now you captivated the investor, right? He's like, okay, I get what you're saying, how you came up with it, what you're solving, and now I'm interested in how you're solving it, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's Simon Sinek's whole thing, the golden circle, right? And I went through all these books, and that also that taught me a lot about the why, and also pitch decks and that sort of thing. You first have to give an investor a reason to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the why. Why should I care? Why should I even read the next slide? So yeah, that's probably you've captured it there. That is the one question you need to be able to articulate very clearly for yourself and for anyone that asks why this thing matters.
So interesting, because out of all the guests I've talked to so far, that's the one book, The Golden Circle and The Why from Simon Sinek, that comes up with pretty much every single one.
Yeah.
It's something they really nailed. So I want to roll you back a bit to understand the journey you came from. You did a lot of corporate, you worked all across Africa, and I want to understand a little bit about what made Hermann tick through that journey, and which key learnings you have taken from that on to when you sparked your entrepreneurial spirit, and which key learnings you've taken with you from your corporate, and maybe some artifacts that was completely useless. So if you can roll it back a little bit to the beginning of your journey.
Yeah, the corporates, it's been interesting as well, in that, like you say, I've worked in Africa in various countries, and it kind of started off early 2000s, late 99, early 2000s, somewhere there, building mobile phone towers and, kind of cutting my teeth in that industry and kind of, going from there and eventually ending up in Mozambique, leading a internet service provider. And yeah, I've got an interesting story to tell there, and it's got to do with funding. So I was working for this company, and it belonged to an individual, and the individual kind of treated this company like his personal savings account. So there wasn't a lot of financial oversight, and it was a tough environment. We had an amazing group of people working there, and but we were suffering, because it was a tough environment. And I heard about the Seacom undersea fiber cable that was coming to Africa, because at the time we were paying, I think it was like $20,000 a meg for international capacity. It was insanely expensive.
Yeah.
So it meant that your what you gave to customers was just little bits. It was early days, and so we heard about this, and I said, well, we've got to make a plan here to kind of neutralize the power of this person and get some external investors in. So I put together an investments plan to acquire capacity and build a backbone for our network and so on, and then went looking for investors. Now
you have zero background in this.
Zero. This is kind of this is what I do, right? So like, okay, let me go find $8 million, and so I built this very simple website. Our IT guy that we had, they helped me to kind of with the technicalities and how to get it working properly, with username and password access. And Google was around, so I started Googling investment funds. Yeah. And okay, here's one, and there was one from Norway, and Norfund, and hey, I've got this opportunity in Mozambique, And people actually responded. I mean, nowadays it's impossible to do cold outreach and get people to respond to you, because there's just so much out there. And eventually we, the CEO of CCOM, Brian Hurley, fantastic human being, he came around to our office and he said, hey, we've got this cable coming, and would you guys be interested in buying capacity? Like, yeah. We listened politely to his pitch and we said, actually, this is our pitch. We're trying to find an investor to come and, buy into this business so that we can buy your capacity and do all these other things. And he then made the introductions to the investors that eventually came. And they invested 5 million and we 9x'd that company in 7 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then
this was when?
This was, that deal happened in 2009.
Yeah.
I left Mozambique in 2016.
2016.
Yeah. So this was in that period. And that's kind of entrepreneurial as well, right? I mean, it kind of went beyond the, what you would normally do as an employee.
Absolutely.
Which I was, right? But it was a great result. And
was your owner smart enough to reward you for that?
Or? No, it was, and I wasn't clever enough to kind of, put terms on the table before. It was kind of, just believing that, well, if I do this, then he'll be so grateful and he'll give me something.
But so having such a smashing success in your first try of fundraising, do you feel that later in life that has given you a little bit, is that an advantage? Or because sometimes I see people when they succeed massively on try number one, they're not aware of all the other problems you run into, right? So the second time they might run into a wall.
Yeah.
Which way did it go for you?
Walls, man. Walls all around.
Yeah.
Look, I haven't tried raising for myself again, after that. I've been on a different journey, right? But it's got to do with, in that case, I had product market fit.
Yeah.
It was a low hanging fruit for any investor to come in to see, well, we're going to, bring down the cost of international capacity by 20 times. If we build this, we seem to have a competent team here. There's massive opportunity in this market. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the bottom line of everything we do. It's got to be a no-brainer. You look through pitch decks. I look through pitch decks. I help people with that as well. And most of the pitch decks that I see, it's the person's got no idea what they're actually doing. They've got this idea. They look from their perspective, and sure, they haven't had the training, they haven't had the experience, but it's a hard thing. Yeah, it's a super hard thing to successfully raise funding. You know that.
Very hard.
Right? So you've got to be, I'm working with someone here locally in Dubai at the moment, and I've been working with them for the last year to, try and raise funding. It's kind of looks like he's going to raise funding now, but through some other networks that he has, not through me. And it's got to be the right person at the right time in their frame of mind. Well, yeah, I think about this thing in this way now. So therefore, this opportunity that comes across my table at this moment, I think I need to look into this.
Timing is key.
Man, it's so complex. Yeah. So, going back to the lessons in corporate, I didn't enjoy corporate very much. I was successful and I did my thing, but I'm too much of a pragmatist to kind of, I want to just get the thing done, And in corporate, you have to.
That's not very corporate-like.
Exactly right. And I was just I couldn't be bothered to play those games, So if you cut out like that and you enjoy that kind of thing, great. But I had a lot of frustration in that thing. So in that respect. So, being in the space where I am now, where I'm able to be 100% entrepreneurial and being in a space where I can be as little or as much creative. I mean, I had one, I was managing director of a fiber company, and I had a run-in with a chairman who told me you're too much of an ideas person. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, it's my job to be visionary and ideas orientated. But yeah. So corporates. I mean, I don't know that there are many lessons that I learned out of corporate, except for get out onto an entrepreneurial journey as soon as you can.
But if I can roll it back, I checked your background a little bit. You did touch on something entrepreneurial quite early in your career.
Yeah.
You were creating log cabins or something, right?
Yeah.
So this was a business you were involved in starting. Right. So that was your first entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
What made you go there? The entrepreneurial journey
you're going back
itself.
Many years now.
Many years. No, but I think it's important because it kind of crafts the full story.
Right.
And very often you can kind of realize, for me, it's always interesting to hear what shaped it and how.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's, and I think what I'm doing now is who I've always been, kind of corporate kind of became a necessity, to earn and to kind of, move things forward. But I've always been that entrepreneurial person. And
so you were just pushing it down for a long time.
Right. Yeah. To, when you've got kids and you've got responsibilities, you've got to kind of have to provide that stability.
Yeah.
So I did that. But before that, I was a log home builder. And before that, I was working in Uganda on a gold exploration project.
Okay.
So, through some people we knew, got involved there and did some exploration northwest Uganda. That was an adventure in itself. Saw some very interesting and scary things there. We never found the gold, but they did eventually find the gold body.
Okay.
Years after we had left, and there's a huge mine there now. And from there, it's like, came across this ad in a magazine, this guy down in Durban that teaches you how to build log homes. And I was like, man, this looks amazing. I just love wood and I love the idea of, building. So I went and did the course and then, kicked off my business and started building some log cabins and log homes in the eastern parts of South Africa. And then, same that I did with my funding outreach. I built a portfolio and then I reached out to 80 log home companies in the US and said, hey, I want to come to the US and learn this trade properly. And then I got invited by a company in Idaho to come and work for him. And I spent 9 months there. And he had wanted to, I wanted to immigrate to the US at the time. And the guy spent a lot of money on lawyers and things to get me legal, but it didn't work out. So that's when I came back to South Africa.
Yeah.
That's, you look at the US and how people just go there and stay there, for years.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I just left when my visas expired and the lawyer said no. And then that's kind of when I started in the telecoms industry, and kind of really grew up in the telecoms industry. But
it sounded like it. You're basically in the industries that provides services and access service infrastructure for communication across, which is such a needed industry, right?
Yeah.
So must be a lot of good learnings.
It was amazing. I mean, you asked earlier about my learning about coding. I mean, being from a telecoms background, I understood that part of things and access networks and fiber networks, and so that's, I suppose, kind of similar technical things. Wireless networks. I've built many wireless networks and then onto fiber and really got to know fiber and different architectures and so on. So yeah, all of that kind of, build. I suppose you don't remember everything that you know and how it impacts on this current thing in front of you, but I'm sure it does. I'm sure there is a link between all of your life experiences and what you're currently doing.
Yeah,
it's not obvious to you, but I'm sure it's there.
Because your shift looks quite dramatic, but listening to the story, there's a lot of building blocks that goes into
exactly,
it.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to be to be the story.
And you have a very clear opinion on you have to take care of the family, the kids, so it was a natural step that you had to do that journey.
Yes.
And then you said now the birds have left the nest.
Yes.
So it was time for you to go back to your real passion.
Yes.
And go out and build something.
Yeah.
That switch to go full time into that cannot have been easy though. That must have been, what was your biggest challenges you faced in that switch?
Look, apart from cash flow, which is, I was fortunate. I had a bit of a runway when I left corporate. So, I think the biggest challenge for me was finding product market fit, because there it is. Okay, you've now made this decision, and where do you fit? What do you do? And it took me the longest time to kind of get to a point where I felt, okay, this is where I'm really good at. And it came back to, what do I understand? What do I know about business? And the space and it's kind of led me to the space with Flowmaster is B2B, is what I understand, and what I'm really comfortable in, and that I feel I can make a contribution in, So that's kind of the marketing clients that I ended up with are B2B. And this app that I'm building now is B2B as well. So, challenges is product market fit.
Yeah.
And it's a lonely journey, man. It's not an easy journey. People have this idea sometimes, they see these super successful entrepreneurs and like, oh man, I'm going to do that. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
I actually say that when I interview people for growth startup companies, I try to figure out in the interview, like, what's their intention of joining a company like this? Because I try to tell them that it's a lifestyle. It's joining a startup company. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. And you have to be aware of what it means, and you have to be fit for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to, the difference between that and corporate, you come and say, I want to spend 30 years. They're happy. Great. Hermann spent 30 years with us. I'm actually happiest when I get someone joining a growth company who says, this is amazing. I want to learn the maximum and give you the maximum for 3 years and then go and build my own thing.
Yes.
I'm like, amazing. Now we're aligned.
Yes.
We can do amazing stuff together, right? That is the best.
100%. You feel that you're so much more productive.
Yeah.
And useful. And for me, that is, I want my life to mean something from that perspective. I don't want to, and that I think was probably the biggest frustration for me with corporate. There's so much role playing. There's so much LinkedIn in corporate, where we all pretend that we're super excited and, oh, my boss said the most amazing thing, and it's all fake, So this entrepreneurial journey is super real. You have to look in the mirror every day and like, yeah, okay, I've made that decision. I've got to live with it.
Yeah.
But even though that's hard, I prefer that journey any day of the week, over that kind of fake and just pretend thing that a lot of people have to deal with in corporate. And I think it's such a waste.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I had tons of developers over the years in companies who literally would enjoy the journey coming from corporate development, and they would be a developer now for a startup company, and they enjoyed the fact that when they build something, you actually put it in the market very fast, and you get the feedback.
Right.
Sometimes, so I have a friend who is one of the lead developers in Audi in Germany right now, and he said the problem is sometimes they get a project, they work on it for 9 months. When they do delivery, it goes to a different department, and they don't actually get feedback if it was ever even used.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's terrible.
Right.
He liked that when he does a project, you click the live button, you see does it work, you tweak it, And that's gratifying.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's scary when it doesn't work.
Right.
But it's gratifying to be able to get that instant response from it.
Yes.
Right?
And that's the feedback. And I think, going back to the log home building, that's the kind of feedback that you get from building, and you put that log up there and you can stand back and there it is. I did that, and it fits properly and it's square and level. And
your analytical brain though must have actually fit building log homes.
Exactly.
Because you have to be systematic, you have to build in the right order, you have to do everything.
But what I'm building now is not much different from that.
Yeah.
It's in a different domain.
But I think it's because of your personal character and your analytical way of doing it. You're doing it very properly.
Yeah.
Most people will just throw something out there, some code, and see if it works. They put it in the market. A lot of developers I meet, they don't do the testing.
Yeah.
They don't run proper tests on it.
Look, to be perfectly honest, I started out like that, thinking because I trust that the AI knows is a super intelligent being. And until I realized, okay, it's actually not. It's just a tool. And then the analytical part of it really served me well in terms of building a system that works. Yeah.
I saw in your past also you did something. You worked a bit as a life coach based on neuroscience.
Right.
Which is such an interesting topic.
Yeah.
And how do you feel that fits in with the world we're exposed to today with AI? And has it given you a different perspective on the entrepreneurial journey or on life itself?
Look, that's Neuro Leadership Institute is the organization I did my coaching program through. And that just opened the world for me in terms of how I look at things.
Okay.
And it gave me a lot of peace in my life about understanding myself in the first place and understanding why people do what they do. The way I grew up was, you kind of just grow up and you get on with things, and it's not a whole lot of sympathy for your feelings, or, just get on with things, and do your thing. And you kind of get to believe that the way you are is just the way you are, and you can't do anything about that. Doing that course taught me about the concept of neuroplasticity. Okay. You know what that is?
Explain to the casual listener.
Yeah, so neuroplasticity is the concept of, the brain's ability to rewire itself, basically. So in the way they discovered this was with people that had traumatic brain injuries. And they would know, well, in this region of the brain, that deals with speech. So if that part of the brain is damaged, then we expect the person will never be able to speak again. But then they'd had these situations, and then the person would learn to speak again. Okay, and then they kind of figured out, well, the brain has the ability, if one part doesn't work, to kind of use those neurons, and they connect to other neurons, and it takes over that function. Okay. And then I also learned that if you think about the concept of forgetting, how do you forget? It's the same thing. It's neuroplasticity at work. It's basically, your brain, you paying attention to different things, and then your brain seeing that pattern that had to do with that old thing is not getting any traffic at the moment. It's not getting any traffic. Well, those neurons are just sitting there. Let me use them somewhere else.
Do you now delete that forever, or are you just painting over it and it's still accessible?
I don't know. I don't know how exactly that works, but I think it kind of becomes so jumbled that you won't recognize it in its original form ever again. I don't think that's possible. And the other thing that I learned about that is, if you look at a lot of psychological conditions that people have, like anxiety and depression, and I've dealt with those things personally in my younger days, it's, in essence, it is a brain pattern that gets repeated over and over and over again. And it becomes so strong that it overwhelms a person, and therefore, people, take drastic measures because they cannot deal with this absolute darkness that's inside of them. Okay. And understanding neuroplasticity gave me so much hope in that, this is not a default setting. I can change things. I have the power and the ability to change things. And then you look at, okay, how do you change these things? And there are various ways of intervention, right? There's psychology, there's psychiatry, there's mentoring, there's coaching. And they each have their own domain and the way, you do things. And I'm a firm believer that the domain of coaching is the most useful to help a person to get out of those kind of dominant brain patterns. Why? Because coaching is forward-looking, okay? Psychology is backward-looking.
Yeah.
You go and look and find the problems and you discuss the problems. But by doing that, you're reinforcing these brain patterns. Forward-looking brain patterns, like coaching, is you help the person to go and sketch out a new reality, okay? And a reality that sits outside of this dominant pattern, and then you help them to focus their energy in this new area. What happens over time, if they consistently do that, is a natural process of the brain seeing, well, this dominant pattern that's been running in this person's brain is like, it's not that busy anymore, because they're spending a lot of time now in this new domain. So let me start breaking some of these connections that are there and applying them elsewhere in this new domain. And then over time, that's how you break any kind of, dominant pattern that you want to change.
It's so interesting. So a few decades ago, I used to struggle with, after my dad passed away, I used to struggle with guilt of not giving enough attention to my mom, right? She was an elderly woman already, so I shouldn't be guilty by it, but I struggled with it.
Right.
Secondly, I struggled with the fear of do something in public, what will people think about you? And that will take over my life sometimes. It went very dark, right? So I had a doctor who basically said, forget psychiatry for that. I think for your analytical brain, because I think we're wired a little bit the same. He said, I teach cognitive therapy. I'm not going to bring you to cognitive therapy, but I'm going to give you just the tools because you will understand them of cognitive therapy.
Cognitive therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was such an eye-opener for me to read the tools, because it was purely about recognizing a pattern of my brain when something happens, my reaction to it, and breaking out of it. And I was not aware of this at the time, but I just recently had another guest on who is very in the same field as you were discussing. And now listening to you, I'm starting to realize, well, it's actually breaking the same pattern. I am rewiring my brain to let that part go and painting over a new picture and accepting that I don't have to feel or do that thing.
Yeah, to coming to that understanding that you are not a prisoner of your brain. To me, that was the biggest thing to learn about that. It was the biggest relief of, oh my word, there's a pathway for me to escape these brain patterns that I don't want, And if you think about this thing's got many names, but you think about visioning, a CEO that sketches a vision for a business. What is that? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
He's placing a new reality out there of the future that he wants to see for this company.
Yeah.
And he gets people to start thinking about that future. And forget about these old things that we've been doing that are not working,
And I'm a firm believer in that. Whenever I come into a company that asks me to help, my first job is I would try to understand the vision of the founder, where he wants to go.
Yes.
Now, if I know where he wants to reach, I can start helping the team to go in that general direction. There's no fixed, clear path, but you get all aligned to that direction.
Correct.
And it's so interesting to come to this realization that it all actually goes back to the same thing.
The same thing.
The same thing.
It's all the same thing. And I think we sometimes make things more complex than they need to be, you know.
I think all the time.
Especially with this kind of thing where it's super personal, it's inside of you, you know. It's your life, you know. Your brain is your life, and if you are not able to kind of move away from those things, that defines you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose there's a whole industry around this, you know, and you know, therapists that make money out of this, but it
is. But it turns out, not talking to you, I realize they're just all differently labeled.
Yeah.
They don't actually talk about the neuroscience of it. They're just labeling different things, right?
Yeah, you know, I mean, at university, I had one of my subjects was sociology and psychology, business psychology, and then you learn about all the great thinkers and all the great philosophers of the. And initially, you're like, oh my word, I've got so much to learn from these people. Until you realize later in life, no, they were just speculating. They were just, you know, thinking. I mean, there's no science in the social sciences.
Yeah.
There's no science to it. And so, you know, when I kind of try and figure these things out, I try and make it as simple and as practical as possible for myself.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people, this is not complex. This is not a woo-hoo big thing. No. If you want to change the way you think about things, start thinking of other things.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line of what.
And it's so interesting because right now in the social sphere, with this young generation showing off their Lamborghinis and their money and everything, right? They're all talking about the power of them and they're manifesting what they want to be.
Yeah.
And by talking to you, I realize, they're manifesting it. They claim that that's some secret source. It's just exactly the same pattern.
Exactly the same thing.
What does an athlete do? An alpine skier.
Yes.
He stands on top. He manifests his race. He goes through every move 100 times. So now when he does it, he has rewired his brain to know exactly what's going to happen and how to react to what happens.
Exactly.
Right? So it's a tool that everyone has been using, but depending on the time we're in, it has a different label. And in social now, it's like, so manifested my future.
Exactly. You know, 100% correct. Any endeavor that you undertake, if you are able to see it in your mind before you do it, you're going to be so much more successful than the person that cannot see it in their mind.
Yeah.
You know, so manifesting or visioning or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of the big reasons, like people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk has become so successful? They were able to. I was just about to go
to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk is a phenomenon of our time. We are so privileged to be living in the time of Elon Musk because the world's never seen anything like him. I just saw today he's now worth $600 billion.
Yeah.
And
he has $1 trillion bonus package about to sign, right?
In 10 years' time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's insane, right? I mean, the guy he's 51. Come on. He went to the US.
Shame on me. I'm 51.
Right. You know, he went to the US at the age of 17 with $2,000. And now he's worth $600 billion. Okay. And why? Where's it come from? It comes from, he's probably the best example we have. And Steve Jobs is another hero of mine. Same thing, you know, super, okay, let's talk about Steve Jobs first of all. Super focused on product.
Yeah.
Company that's product-led. And Musk is saying the same thing. You cannot have MBAs and CAs leading companies. You have to have engineers. It's an engineering company, you know. And that's, you know, yeah, just go, I'll come back to Elon Musk, but it's one of the things that was, you know, I saw early on in my time at you know, in Mozambique. Company I was working for, the group I became part of when the transition was done, was an incredibly dynamic and entrepreneurial company. It was the top internet service provider in South Africa. And during my tenure, they brought in a new CEO from their holding company to say, well, we got to get this company now to comply and grow up and become more corporate. What happened? In less than 10 years, that company was gone. They killed it.
Yeah.
Because they killed the vision
that
made that company great in the first place. Okay, and then you then come back to a person like Elon Musk. When I first heard about Elon Musk in, I don't know when that was, maybe 2010, 2015, somewhere there, I heard this guy talking about, well, I want to go to Mars. And I was like, are you insane? No one's going to Mars.
Yeah.
It's impossible to go to Mars. And I think most of us thought that, And what he did is all of his companies, he built around that vision that I want to make sure that we become a multi-planetary species because I want consciousness to survive. I mean, you can't get a more lofty goal for our species than that.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's his vision. That is his, that is his company, starting point. Now, you think about that. If you have a CEO that comes and say, "Hey guys, we need to go to Mars. This is our mission. This is our big mission. We got to go to Mars. But to get to Mars, we need to build a battery pack that we can put into a Mars rover that will last and be da-da-da. You, Mr. Engineer that works on this battery, remember, you're building a battery that's going to go to Mars." Now think about what that does to a person who's working on that battery pack.
Yeah.
It just brings out the absolute best. The other thing that I've learned about Elon Musk over time is that he does not tolerate people that are not aligned to the vision. You can debate him on the merits of the implementation or whatever, but people that are not aligned to the vision, he gets rid of them quick. And the way he described it, he says it's like vectors. A vector. So a vector has got a certain direction. So if you have all of these vectors pointing into different directions, you're not going anywhere. That's a very simple way to look at it, right? So you've got to make sure that all of your vectors are pointing in more or less the same direction. Then you're going to gain momentum towards your goal. So it's absolutely the success of those companies, to me, is 100% because of the vision of Elon Musk. And the vision is what we've just been talking about, is that being able to articulate where you want to go and then keep at it. The audacious goal of we're going to go to Mars.
Yeah. He's not just going to go, he's going to colonize it.
Man, when I heard about the starship that they're not even going to put legs on this thing. They're going to catch it while it comes down from the sky. Do you know how insane that is?
It's literally, when I looked at that landing, I was like, is this CGI? I had to look 5 times.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insanity. But they did it.
And he did it. He became the richest person in the world currently from just putting a vision, but dreaming of a bigger vision than everybody else.
Right. There's no bigger vision.
Yeah.
So for sure, he has to be the richest person in the world because there's no bigger vision than what he's got.
Yeah. That's an interesting, smaller fact, to compare to Steve Jobs. His vision was amazing.
Yeah.
But it was still a little bit smaller scale,
Yes.
right? Because I remember one of these stories when, in the beginning, they brought an engineer and they said, it has to be this size and you have to fit the cooling. And the guy's experience is it's not possible. Doesn't matter. You just have to make it work. Now you made that engineer's head spin.
Right.
And then he went and sold it.
Yeah.
Because someone just said, it just has to be done.
Yeah.
Because it fits my vision.
Right. But then the other side of this now, people that are detractors of Elon Musk would say, and Steve Jobs, well, he's a hard boss to work for. He's a slave driver. He doesn't care about people. The best engineers, they don't hold the gun to their heads and say, you have to work here. The best engineers choose to go and work there. Why? Because they have direct access to this guy.
Yeah.
You look at their culture. I don't know if you know how it works in these companies. A guy that's working on the front line doing the job, okay, if his manager is not helping do his job better, he's free to Elon Musk to email Elon Musk directly. Okay, no problem. Okay, so there's no hierarchy. Well, I cannot speak to my boss's boss because he's going to feel offended. There's none of that. So the attention is on the right thing. The attention, it's product led.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, that is probably what goes wrong with most businesses. It becomes about the money. It becomes about, well, we got to focus on cost cutting. We've got to and the product becomes secondary. And the reason you're in business, after all, is to provide a great product or service at a reasonable cost to your customers.
Yeah.
That becomes secondary in most business. Why are these guys so successful? Product led. Steve Jobs, product led. And then have this amazing vision that people then buy into. And then can you imagine being an engineer at SpaceX or a Tesla, and you are part of the story?
Yeah.
It's going to bring out the best in you.
And I think he does something well, which I heard some gentleman like 10, 20 years ago, the best advice I ever heard, and it fits perfectly into this. He said, me as a manager, the boss, my job is to understand the vision, instill it into the people, make them buy it and believe it, then give them everything they ask for to get that done,
Exactly.
and get out of their way.
Correct.
And then just support them, right?
100%.
And it's what he's doing on the grand scale.
Yes.
He gets people who's like, and I don't think they get blamed if they do something wrong.
No.
They get applauded. Okay,
Yes.
it didn't work. Let's try
Exactly.
again.
Yeah.
They were not afraid of crashing rockets.
No, they're not. Exactly that. Because
if NASA crashes a rocket, it's like a PR crisis.
Right. Yeah, he's turned that whole, because and it's the old owner agent problem, where the person that's the founder and the shareholder in the business has got a different way of looking at the business than the first CEO that gets appointed there, that hasn't got a stake, because he's got to answer to this owner or the board or whatever, right? So his way of looking at the problem is different immediately. If Elon Musk was to go away, you will probably see that the business is going to change.
That's what happened to Apple until they brought him back, right?
It's what happened to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay. When Bill Gates stepped out, Microsoft became irrelevant. Okay. And it's only when the late what is his name, Sundar Pichai, when he came in, he kind of brought proper leadership into Microsoft again. But yeah, Steve Jobs, I mean, that story is exactly the same. Brought the Pepsi guy across to, no, he's going to, make this a proper corporate. Failed. Yeah. Leaders, vision, and that, belief and focusing on product and not on the other stuff.
Tough question. And it makes me uncomfortable because I know my answer to it and I don't like it. Is your vision this grand?
Sorry?
Is your vision for what you want to do on the same kind of grand scale?
No.
Not going to Mars, of course.
No. But my vision is not that at all. I mean, I've been on my own journey in terms of figuring things out and going through my own obstacles, and my vision is simply to get this app to a point where it brings me a great monthly recurring revenue. That's it. Once we're there, we can then do the next thing. But it's too late in life for me to start with a
it's never too
massive brand. No, I think my vision is the right size for where I am in life. And
I really I don't know if I'm using the right words for it, because for me in my head it keeps ringing. After I spoke to the first time, it keeps ringing like this not as a buzzword, but the real human-centric AI. Now you're using AI, but it's focused on the human, and I can feel comfortable. There's a human to talk to if needed, and it solves so many of the issues for interacting with the AI today that people have, right?
Look, I mean, the whole concept of trust is a very interesting concept and something I've spent a lot of time on, because trust is basically the glue that holds society together. And objectively, it is the glue, because you get high trust societies, you get low trust societies.
Yeah.
And the record is clear on which societies are successful and progress and which don't. Okay, so trust, and going back to the neuroscience, if you look at the way we are wired as human beings, we have this primal positioning in our ancient part of our brain that is geared towards looking for danger, always. And that's how we survive. So we always prime to where's the danger, and then your flight response versus your reward, or your go-to response. Your flight response is 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
Because you can always, this is potentially good for me. You can approach it at your own speed, and there's nothing bad that's going to happen. But if you don't respond to the bad thing, the results potentially disastrous. You potentially die. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at that building block as the basis of our species, it's got to do with trust. Can I trust the people around me to not do me harm? Yeah. And if that is possible, if I can trust people around me, that frees my mind up to do other creative and nice things. But if I'm in an environment, and this is corporate culture sometimes, where I'm not safe, I have to be looking over my shoulder who's trying to, do me in. It's a low trust corporate culture. So all of your energy and time is spent on protecting your livelihood. So now you're playing those corporate games. That corporate politics, it's just trust. It's distrust, really.
Yeah.
It's a lack of trust. That's why those games are being played. And for some reason, I've never worked for Elon Musk. For some reason, I think there's very little of that. Should still be there because there's humans there. But I think because he is so focused on this big vision, there's no time for these kind of things,
He gets rid of the distrust by, if you're not aligned with the vision, you're not going to spend time there anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So go and, play your games elsewhere. Because if you're aligned, great, let's go and let's do the thing,
Amazing.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do with this app is to extend that feeling of trust that we have in high trust environments to an AI. That's in essence what I'm trying to do here.
Hermann, this has been such an interesting episode. We covered grand visions going to Mars. We covered AI. We covered neuroscience, how it plays into business and life. And I need to wrap it up now. Otherwise, me and you will go for another 10 hours, I think.
Thank you so much.
Maybe we do another episode one day on similar topics.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you like this content and you want to hear more real founder stories, we drop new episodes weekly. Make sure you don't miss that and click subscribe.